to Up at Noon, live at 5, or wherever time it is where you are. I'm Brian Altano. This is my best friend and co-host, Max Scoville. Hi, Max. How are you?
How's it going? Sorry we're a little bit late. A lot of people don't know this, but our theme song is performed by a live brass band, and one of the trumpet players had a sore throat, so he was a little bit rusty getting that music started.
It was a problem, but luckily Max decided to jump in, take over. He just started playing, you just started doing like saxophone trumpet stuff like 2 days ago, so I think you picked up the pace. You did really good. We couldn't make it do that. We have a very special episode today, one that we're very, very proud of. As you can tell by our backgrounds and our lives and our literally every conversation we've ever had, Max and I are gigantic fans of toys. So we're really, really happy and excited to announce that our sponsor today is Mega Construx, who has been making just really, really awesome, in-depth, really cool, and really detailed construction sets and kits based on so many different IPs, to the point where like Max and I actually started pulling on the thread a little bit and being like, okay, so they've done Terminator, Turtles, Predator, Call of Duty, and Halo, and many, many others. But specifically, Halo Infinite obviously was supposed to be one of the biggest games this fall. Got kicked back a little bit, but that's okay because there's plenty of other stuff to play. But also, there's some really cool stuff for you to build. So without further ado, thank you to our sponsor, Mega Construx, and their Halo line, which is deeply influenced by the new Halo Infinite game. Very, very excited about this. So, Max, to celebrate, you and I put together a short film where we showed these off, but we actually turned it into a bit of a challenge that I won't give away who wins, but you'll know very soon.
Let's take a look.
This week we are sponsored by Mega Construx's Halo line, which is just great for us because we love toys and we love video games, and these two wonderful worlds are combined with this wonderful line of construction toys.
That's right, Max. This is the Warthog Rally and Watercraft Jetpack, and we're going to be unboxing it today and building it. This product is obviously deeply inspired by the new Halo Infinite, which will hopefully be out eventually soon, but until then, you can build some toys to celebrate. This model has 314 pieces. It comes with 4 collectible micro action figures, including the Master Chief, the UNSC Marine, and 2 Jackal freebooters, all of which have 12 points of articulation and stands, so they're really cool little figures. It's also a 2-in-1 kit, so you can build the Warthog or flip it and do the Jetpack and Waterboat, which is...
I love this. I feel like Halo specifically is a very toyetic video game series. There's always been that kind of, like, just sort of action figure mentality of, like, getting in a Warthog or, like, picking up a new weapon. And this is, a perfect scale for it.
So I figured since we both have these toys in hand, we will build the Warthog, like I said, one of the most iconic vehicles ever. And so I think that that'll be fun, and that's a great thing to do. But also, what if things got a little crazier and we raced to see who could build the Warthog the fastest?
I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not competitive. I don't like to compete.
It's a mild challenge, and the reward is friendship and toys.
Okay,
and there's no such thing as losing.
All right.
Except for if you lose.
All right. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
On your mark.
3, 2, 1, and build!
Okay, so luckily the bags are numbered here, which is a huge advantage. Now, I always do this thing where I, like, get sidetracked and I want to just, like, play with the little figures first.
I will say you are probably at a tactical advantage over me already because I opened the side of the bag and it said to open the top.
Don't open this. What's wrong with you? This has like a working suspension, which I'm into. I also just love good little squishy rubber tires.
It's really funny to see Master Chief in this many little pieces. It makes it seem like he was in a very heated multiplayer match and things didn't go well for him. Wow, these figures are awesome.
Ooh, look at that. He's got abs. But I'm going to start building the kit. You can do whatever you want. I'm just going to start building the Warthog.
You got to be kidding me. That is not fair.
What do you mean it's not fair? There's no rule.
Yes, there is a rule.
There's nothing in the rule book that says it can't skip ahead in the steps.
Shirtless Master Chief going. That's been fun. I got to finish him. So I'm going back to him because he's going to be cold out there. I'm worried about him. All right, so bag 1, bunch of little pieces and a steering wheel, and what looks to be
some keys, some platforms. There's going to be a lot here. So we can
I have this great strategy where I just take all of the parts and I dump them on top of the instructions so I can't really see what I'm doing. And I think this is going to really lead me to victory. It's like
this could work for you. This might work for you. Oh, I like these like camouflage pieces over here. These
aren't
are really
they neat?
cool. Yeah,
they look like caramel. I want to eat them.
I think you should have eaten something before we did.
I think they specifically say on the box, "Do not eat these."
That's definite. Yes, it should.
They say that not for children under whatever age, or if you're in your 30s and you skipped snack time and you really want to chow down. I put myself at a huge disadvantage where, like, right before we were gonna shoot this, I was like, "Ew, I have gross fingernails. I should trim them." And now it's really hard to do this. Luckily, you do have these little orange crowbar pieces to help you out.
I'm actually going to put Master Chief on this, and he is going to go surfing.
What's wrong with you?
I don't know. I mean, he doesn't have a shirt on, so he might as well enjoy the cool summer breeze. I think I'm building the deck.
The deck?
The part of the car where the guys hang out. You know.
I don't think a car has a deck.
Well, what do you call it?
A boat has a deck?
But what is it? This looks like a deck of a boat. Of a car.
Pretty sure that's the chassis.
You really love that word.
It's a good one.
This is.
I think we're at exactly the same spot right now.
Where are you?
I'm putting the deck on the car.
Okay. Yeah. So we're in the same spot. I like that little steering wheel. It's cute.
Isn't it cute? That's a good steering wheel.
It really is. I really like this little car, this little boat.
Oh, I like that the armor has like a little bit of a sheen to it.
I like this green. We talked about this, but now that I'm there, I want to.
That is a nice green.
What kind of green do you think that is?
Warthog green.
Warthog green is good. I really like how smooth the exterior of this Warthog is once you get all the pieces down.
Look at that little gas can.
Can you hold that up for a few more minutes?
Nice try, Brian.
I'm looking great though. Look at this. This is a beaut over here.
That's a beautiful boat, Brian.
This Warthog's gonna live in my collection.
It's like a nice little water hog. Look at that. Stop showing me.
That's
Show the thing.
Awesome.
Isn't that great?
Yes, that's super cool.
It's got a little working chassis and stuff. Not chassis. I keep saying it's not a chassis. The whole thing is the chassis. It's the other thing. Master Chief is going to drive. Got to build 2 more little guys, and I think I'm going to win. I think I'm the winner here.
You're definitely going to win. I'm way behind.
Yeah? Should we just call it then?
I guess so.
Aw.
So I wanted to talk about some of my favorite details in this build because there's a lot of really, really cool stuff. First of all, the shocks are super impressive. Look at the way they bounce on these tires. Basically, look at that.
I love it.
That's awesome. And so they're basically built with a series of small sort of wrench-looking pieces. These kind of like bronze pegs. This big flat cross-shaped piece, the wheels obviously, and a small like sort of black rubber band that you wrap around the inside that is contained underneath the little wrench pieces and just creates a cool bounce. And so yeah, you can do that for all 4 tires, and it's really nice
surprisingly simple. Like I was totally expecting it to be like either a spring-loaded piece or like a specialty piece, but it's just a bunch of kind of existing pieces in a rubber band, and it totally works.
Another thing I really liked was the turret gun. It's another one of those things that feels very sort of like 90s action feature. It's got this cool little chain on the side of ammunition, obviously, and these cool shields in the front that have little insignia on them and tilt back and forth. And the whole thing sits on this disc that can basically move at different angles, which I really love. Totally rules. I love this Master Chief. This is like such a cool little figurine. Yeah, this is gonna live in my collection with the rest of my toys, and I'm very happy about that. Because
you can get a lot of really good little poses out of these too, because they're all ball jointed. Overall, I think this is a really fun little build. I mean, neither one of us is huge Halo guys, but the Warthog is an iconic toyetic video game vehicle, and this is a really faithful recreation of it. From a distance, they nailed that silhouette. Like it's a very accurate rendition of it.
Yeah, I mean, I love building stuff like this. I had a blast building this kit specifically. To me, this is like almost so much more fun than just like buying a toy. Is building one yourself. This is going to definitely end up in my collection. I suggest that if you are a fan of these things, you pick one up too.
And if small scale stuff isn't your thing, there's also, of course, the Mega Construx Energy Sword. We both managed to build that one, but yeah, it's a good display piece. It also comes with a little stand.
Yeah. So this is a Pro Builders kit. This is 567 pieces. This is the Halo Infinite Energy Sword, and I cannot stress this enough. This thing rules. Like, this thing has such an awesome weight to it. This feels like a prop weapon that you would get at like a comic book convention or something like that. But this is one that you build entirely yourself. Like, it's really sturdy. It's firm. It's got like a great weight to it. And if you don't want to swing it around and knock it into stuff, like Max said, you can put it on the stand. And
it probably, like if we were in the same room and we tried to duel with these, that would not end well, but it looks really cool to pose with it,
Yeah. It's got this sort of weird incandescent blue all over it, which is totally awesome. I've never really seen anything like this in a kit like this. It almost looks like somebody kind of swirled paint into it, but because of it's got like a chaotic look to it, it kind of gives it this really awesome feel in terms of like lighting it. And so from a distance, it's got this like really cool sort of iridescent glow, which I love. Yeah, look at that thing.
I wonder if it glow under blacklight.
Probably look awesome under a blacklight.
Yeah. Anyway, the Mega Construx Halo line is available at Walmart, Target, and Amazon, wherever else toys are sold. And plus, all 314 pieces in here are compatible with other Mega Construx building sets. So if you have any or plan on getting more, then you could make a big, huge diorama, or maybe just, send Master Chief on the loose to terrorize your other toys. And of course, once you've constructed your masterpiece, you can proudly display it to remind you of the time that you were better at something than your friend Brian, like me, now.
Well, I think the competition, it's really up to the eye of the beholder, really. I made a parked car, which, there's a lot of uses for that in Halo. Like if you want to go camping, if you want to just listen to music, drive-in theaters, assuming they build a theater in front of the car. There's a lot you can do with a parked car in Halo. Okay, I lost, fine. Congrats.
Yeah, so there you have it. Man, thank you so much to Mega Construx for powering this episode of the show, sending over toys. It's like we talked about it a bit, but like this has been a year for people like buying like puzzles and on Amazon and like coloring books and stuff like that. And it's really cool to have like a small project to work on that doesn't involve me staring at a television.
No, I think there's that part of your brain that does feel good things. You get the chemicals out when you assemble something, or you whether it's a puzzle or a Mega Construx set. Like there's that sort of crafty side of your brain that maybe doesn't necessarily always light up the same way when you're playing games. So it's good to kind of balance it out. Also, I want to give a shout out. Like we mentioned this at the top of the show, but we both fell down this weird rabbit hole of the other stuff that Mega Construx does. If Halo isn't your jam, they also have Call of Duty, Game of Thrones, God of War. We found out they do the Technodrome from Ninja Turtles. They do Castle Grayskull from He-Man, and they also have a whole line of basically just the little micro figures from different stuff. Like they do Predator and Aliens and X-Files. You can get a Fox Mulder figure. So.
The $250 Castle Grayskull is sick. It is like ridiculously cool looking. It's like this tall. It looks like I love the way they're, like we said, like the way their stuff builds out. It looks like low poly, and like the miniature figures are cool as hell. Yeah, I don't know. I'm super hyped about this. If we sound excited, it's because we love toys, and this
yeah.
rules.
I mean, also like the long con is we figured out how to play with toys for like a whole bunch of this week, and that was work. So.
Yeah. It was weird to tell my wife. She was like, "What are you working on, honey?" I was like, "I just got to finish building this laser sword."
Busy day at the office.
She's like, "I was going to go to the grocery store. You want to come?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just buried in work today." So thank you to Mega Construx once again. We hope to work with you guys again soon and keep making cool stuff. In the meantime, another thing that we've been yelling about for a very, very long time on the show, from the figures to the show itself to the comics, is the X-Men. Obviously, huge fans. And I think a lot of people's first foray into X-Men was the animated series. And
Indeed.
So...
Yeah, let's talk about this. So this came out, I believe, just last week. This is a hardcover book called X-Men, The Art and Making of the Animated Series by Eric and Julia Lewald, who were the showrunners and writers of that wonderful show that first appeared on Fox Kids way back in the day. And this is a really, really cool sort of just deep dive on what it was like to make that show. It is, it's interesting because I was expecting a lot of really wacky concept art, but for the most part, they stayed... Like the early designs are pretty close to what the final show looked like, but seeing the storyboards and seeing the sort of the hand painted backgrounds up close is really exciting. But the most exciting thing for me is a lot of the weird making of details that are in the actual text. And I figured sort of while talking about this, we could run down some of those. The book is out now. It is 288 pages with 300 illustrations. It's $50 US or $63 Canadian. Again, it came out on the 13th of this month. We actually have an interview with the authors up on IGN.com. Jesse Shadeen did that. So if you want more info, go check that out. But I figured I could just kind of rapid fire, kind of run down some of the more interesting tidbits of trivia I kind of gleaned from this. Just even in the first half, I still haven't finised reading it.
Right. I'm probably around the same part. And I will say, like, the writing is very fun and conversational. And I was like, I just had a big smile on my face, like laying in bed reading this big fun book, because it really brought me back. I tweeted about it and a bunch of people were like, could you hear the theme song in your head for the entire time? And I was like, yes, basically, but like it works.
There's a whole thing in there where they do a deep dive on the theme song and how it came to be and how, like, you know, whose idea it was and everything. But again, let's talk about sort of like really quick. Here's some weird details. One of the early pitches for an X-Men cartoon actually involved Charles Xavier, Professor X, and Cyclops driving around in a van with a dog looking for mutants, because that was in late 80s, early 90s, there hadn't been a serious superhero TV show. So there was like no precedent for like, what does a good X-Men show look like? If you look at kind of, there was Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. There was the Pride of the X-Men sort of pilot that got put together, which we'll talk about in a second. But as far as like what this show was, it was pretty unprecedented. And also like X-Men weren't a household name. Like that wasn't really a hit comic series for quite a while. Like if you look at kind of alongside, you know, Avengers and Fantastic Four and Incredible Hulk and all them, like X-Men was kind of a dark horse until the 70s.
I mean, you and I were texting about this, I think, right around the time we got to this part of the book, like describing the original pitch for the show as basically being Scooby-Doo but looking for mutants. Had us both cracking up like crazy.
Yeah,
that is immensely funny.
Like, yeah, this is fine. This is all good. So Stanley, the late, the great, the man himself, one of his ideas, he wanted to be involved with this. He wanted to be a big part of it. One of his ideas for the show was that he thought that at the top of every episode, he should be there sitting at his desk in live action, and he should be talking to the viewers, being like, "Greetings, true believers. Today, the X-Men are going up against the unstoppable juggernaut. What could happen next?" And the writers were, at that point, were very invested in telling like a serious, very dramatic show. We're like, oh, that might not work with what we're trying to do. Like we really we want like a more serious, mature story. Like, and having Stan Lee pop out to be like, "Hey everybody, it's me, Stan the Man, Excelsior," and such, you know.
Which, you know, is interesting. Like as a father, I've been putting on some like vintage Winnie the Pooh stuff for my kid on Disney Plus. And there's a lot of the narrator comes out at the beginning of those things, which are, you know, it's very like costume driven or sometimes animation driven. And he comes out and he's like, "Well, today in the 100 Acre Wood, it was a very blustery day." And he like sets the context for everything. Stan Lee also basically wanted to, instead of the iconic theme song that we know, like kind of over explain the concept of what a mutant actually is, like right down to like a DNA level.
Yeah. So the funniest, like he definitely was like excited about not the wrong parts of it, because he, you know, co-created the X-Men, but the parts of it that the showrunners weren't really trying to show off. The weirdest thing about this though is despite them being like, we're trying to make a mature cartoon here, having the creator come out at the beginning, sitting at his desk and telling the viewer what they're about to see. We don't want that. And then a few years later, when HBO did its like incredibly M-rated, adults-only Spawn cartoon, Todd McFarlane did exactly that. He'd be like sitting in a warehouse and he'd turn around and be like, have you ever wondered what it'd be like if you were a Navy SEAL and you died and you went to hell? Well, this is Spawn. Welcome. And it was like, it's kind of an odd juxtaposition there. Anyway, shifting gears here. This is just a wonder. There's the Beast there, who originally started out as kind of a side character. They didn't really want to show him off too much. That's why kind of early in the first season, he's kind of in jail the whole time. But they wound up just loving writing for him so much. And I learned that of all of the sort of cast who were attached to the original animated series, the only one who showed up in the X-Men movie was the truck driver who drops off Rogue at the place where she sees Wolverine having that cage fight. That's the voice actor for Beast. And it's just like a wonderful little, just nice little.
Oh, that rules.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anecdotally, the woman who voiced Jubilee also played Claire Redfield in Resident Evil, I think. But yeah, moving on, the sort of infamously, there was the Pride of the X-Men, which was sort of a failed pilot for what could have been an X-Men cartoon. This came out in the mid-late 80s, and it was made with the budget for an episode of the RoboCop cartoon show. And I love that we're at this point where like they were like, yeah, I mean, the superhero comics might be too violent. Anyway, let's make a cartoon based on RoboCop. But yeah, basically they kind of funneled some of the budget of that into making this one-off episode that was going to showcase a bunch of the X-Men and try to really, play to their strengths. But unfortunately, a lot of the executives were making the decision there. And sort of famously, Wolverine, who is, if you're unfamiliar, just one of the most legendary Canadians ever, has an Australian accent, inexplicably. And I always wondered about that. I wonder if that was somebody who didn't know what they were talking about. Turns out they definitely didn't know what they were talking about, but also they were trying to capitalize on the popularity of Crocodile Dundee, which was really big.
That's so unbelievably interesting that they went down that rabbit hole or crocodile hole.
It's a very weird one. I kind of want to go back and rewatch that with just knowing that it was kind of, designed by committee for that. This one is super interesting. The X-Men animated series, or the X-Men 92 aesthetic as it's known, is very clearly heavily inspired by Jim Lee's designs, because he came out and did, X-Men #1, which was one of the best-selling comics ever, period. I think maybe the best-selling single issue. And he gave like the X-Men this wonderful kind of redesigns. A lot of what we associate with their character designs comes from Jim Lee. And the big thing he did in the early 90s, kind of alongside the X-Men animated series being spun off, is that he went and co-founded Image Comics with, Rob Liefeld and Todd McFarlane and all of those guys. And he was, that was a big political weird thing for Marvel Comics. And so at one point they basically, while the show was still in development and it was a very rushed development to get this first season out the door, they came in and they were like, no, we don't want to show any Jim Lee designs. We don't want to give that guy any more credit. Like he's a traitor. He's gone off to make, Wildcats or whatever. And at this point, the writers were like, the showrunners were like, we've already made these designs. We've already started making this season. Like, you can't just pull the rug out from under us. So one of the artists basically was like, all right, here's some alternate designs, and gave them the worst possible designs, which unfortunately are not in the book, but I think just made like really just intentionally. And I don't even know what that looks like, because character designs in the early 90s were pretty bonkers. So like, yeah. What does that look like? And apparently Marvel was like, ooh, all right, never mind. Do the Jim Lee thing. It's all good. So yeah, those are just a few of the tidbits of details that we learned from this wonderful book, which I'm pretty stoked on. Yeah, it's out now.
Definitely go pick this up. I mean, like we said, gorgeous book, big, heavy, beautiful book, and just a super fun read. Like, honestly, like it's the kind of thing where like you just get into bed and right before bed, read 10 pages and you'll have a big smile on your face. I promise.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of things that might not necessarily put your a smile on your face in the traditional way, but will hopefully entertain you, Hideo Kojima is apparently potentially staffing up for what could be another new game. We don't know exactly what that is yet, but let's get into it.
So unsurprising that Kojima Productions would continue making games after they made one game, which was Death Stranding. And then this tweet went up this week saying Kojima Productions confirms a new project is in development and is looking to hire the best-in-class talent to work out of our Tokyo studio. For more information, yada, yada, yada. And then there's their LinkedIn and a picture of Ludens, their mascot, who's in their hallway where all these celebrities have taken selfies with Kojima. I think the big question is, like, what do we want to see next from Kojima Productions? Because, like, I'm a longtime Kojima fan. Death Stranding was a bittersweet experience for me, but I think because I was really hyped up about it for probably 3 years straight, and then I kind of just guzzled down the game, and I think I was like, I don't know if it was I was expecting more surprises or if it was just too long of an experience for I don't know. Regardless, it stuck with me. Like, right. It's also, when that game came out, the idea of a desolate, fractured America where postal workers are brave souls venturing out into a world where there is an unseen force threatening the safety of everyone, just getting out there to deliver those packages. That seemed really stupid in November 2019. Again, this game is less than a year old, but now it seems like totally weirdly prophetic. And I'm kind of like, well, okay, what next? Like, where do you go from there? You kind of already called it.
No, I was in the same boat where I felt like it's, during the experience, I was like, there's so much here. And that's it's why I think, like, with video games are such an interesting medium, you have to be able to sort of pick apart the parts that you love versus the parts that you don't. And for me, like, gameplay wise, it wasn't my favorite game that year, but like art direction wise, narrative, world building is phenomenal. And vintage Kojima, and it just made me go, what's next? And we did get that.
Let's talk about this. So as far as what's next, there's a lot of possibilities here. I think that everyone at Kojima Productions is probably well aware how much people are thirsty for PT or whatever, Silent Hills or whatever that would have been, or basically a Kojima horror game, because PT is one of the most beloved demos ever. Back in April, Kojima did an interview with BAFTA and said, one of those wonderful Kojima quotes, he said, PT ended as just an experiment, but I would like to make another horror game someday. Something that uses a revolutionary method to create terror that doesn't just make you pee your pants, but crap them. I already have ideas in mind, which is definitely a wacky thing up there.
It was also, following Kojima on Twitter, he was like tweeting out pictures of like DVDs of horror movies he was watching, but also like really unabashedly admitting that he is kind of a scaredy cat when it comes to this stuff, which I totally love, that he's afraid of the medium that he's potentially dabbling in and has definitely dabbled in the past, which I think creates an interesting scenario.
I think that informs a interesting approach. Like, I remember reading that, like, Peter Jackson is deathly arachnophobic, and so when he was making Shelob for Return of the King, he kept going back to his artists and being like, no, kick it up a notch, it's not doing it. Like, I have like I know what I'm doing here. Like, I know how to like really tap into what is scary about spiders. Like, change this, do this differently. Anyway, the whole thing that we're looking at right now is like, will it be a horror game? Will it be Death Stranding 2? Will it be something new? And there's like, again, I told myself I wouldn't do this with whatever the next Kojima game was, but we're already doing it. We're following the breadcrumbs. We're doing weird conspiracy theorist stuff, but here we are. Anyway,
I would argue this is the best part, honestly.
This is the best part. Yeah. The games are good too. I said this about Death Stranding. It felt like it was overambitious in so many different ways, and I wish that it was a smaller, differently scoped game. I think there's a really good 7 hour narrative experience in there, but what we got was kind of stretched out where you're hiking up hills. And I know everyone, equates like length of a game's campaign with value, but like, I don't know. And when you're telling a story, it's not necessarily the case. In any case, in June, Kojima tweeted about how he collaborates with Yoji Shinkawa on a new title, and basically was like, we go back and forth. And he had a tweet with a picture of a baby, or like a little figurine of a baby over it. And then a little bit later, he posted this image. This was like late June. And it's like, it's hard to say, like, it's hard because it's all translated, but it's unclear if he said like, here's the process when making a new title with Yoji. Like, we've collaborated for so long, and it's like, is this just your process in general, or is this your process right now? Is this the new title you're making, or is this a new title? And then he followed it up by saying, working on the concept, listening to Oasis by Kitaro I recently bought, which is cool. He's listening to vinyl, being a, this is also the kind of weird music that I get. I'm happy that he's getting weird vintage, new age music. But people notice this. There's this sketch in the background. There's this weird kind of like, what is that? They enhanced it. It appears to be a spaceship or something very much like it. And they punched in and noticed that on the side of it, it says pretty clearly Bridges, which was the organization from Death Stranding. So like, that seems like kind of like pretty cut and dried that like they're working on a new Death Stranding. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I kind of want something new and strange. And then we were still back in March. Norman Reedus did an interview with Wired where he said, we did Death Stranding, which was a huge hit. We're in talks to do other stuff. And he's allegedly talking to Hideo about maybe doing some Death Stranding stuff. And at this point, in March, the game had only been out for a handful of months and hadn't even come to PC yet. So I think a lot of people were assuming maybe that would have been DLC, like, an extra, story campaign type of thing. But then flip side of that is Norman Reedus was also involved with what would have been Silent Hills. Like, he was going to star in that. So like it could go really either direction here. And I guess my big question is like I want to see, I like Kojima when he gets weird, when he goes completely nuts, but at the same time, I also like when he iterates. Metal Gear Solid 2 is one of my favorites. I mean, when he takes his existing systems and expands on them, Phantom Pain was great. It was him being like, let me take the thing that I've spent, the last 35 years perfecting and then explode it into an open world. And, it's
right.
Yeah.
And I think to expand on all that a little bit, I mean, one, Norman Reedus is experienced in, surviving one of the longest running survival horrors ever put to television. Two, Yoji Shinkawa, most recently, if you want to see him dabble in a horror stuff, did a basically custom Last of Us Part 2, like sort of splash poster for their annual Last of Us Day, which obviously used to be named after something else, but then 2020 changed plans. And I think that like this could be a bit of both. Like, hear me out. What if it's a Death Stranding sequel that does a little bit more world building that also dips into more horror? Like,
yeah, I guess my big thing is like, do I want to see Death Stranding systems like refined and iterated upon, or do I want to see Kojima try something completely new because he's got the freedom of his own studio to try whatever? Because like video game sequels are frequently better than their predecessors because they iterate like software, like it's version 2.0. Whereas movie sequels are frequently kind of a step down because they are kind of retreading familiar territory and they lack that kind of oomph of a big reveal. So it's like, which direction are we going here?
Well, it's tough to say with him specifically, but I think you would have to look at like new studios in general when they show up and they start building out the foundation of what defines them. They're, in this case, they, use the Decima engine that was popularized by Horizon. Do they build upon what they have, or do they start new for each project? Because I feel like all of the legwork that they put in, no pun intended, because I know that game's a lot of legwork, to get where they are with Death Stranding, it feels like sort of brazen and crazy to abandon that and create something brand new. But that's exactly why we love Kojima, right? He's brazen and crazy. Like,
well, anyway, speaking of Naughty Dog, I guess, one of the big, huge news announcements this week in the pop culture world is our first look at Tom Holland playing Nathan Drake, which looks like, unsurprisingly, Nathan Drake. He's wearing it looks like Tom Holland doing cosplay, honestly. I don't even know. The only reason I have Nathan Drake in this framed is because it's a portrait picture and it's weird to crop it like that. I need to kind of balance it out. Everyone watching this knows what Nathan Drake looks like. In the sort of like pantheon of like video game characters or movie costumes that you'd have to really put together a serious budget for. This is definitely on the low. This is on the Amazon Basics end. Like, totally. So the weird thing is, it's nice to see something concrete that supports this movie actually being made, but at the same time, we have been hearing about the Uncharted movie since 2008, and since Avi Arad, who's allegedly also working on a Metal Gear movie, first said, "Hey, we're trying to make an Uncharted movie," which again at the time seemed almost redundant because the whole thing that game did really well was gamifying, adventure cinema. Since that time, we've gotten 6 Uncharted games? Am I counting that right? We got 2, which is in 2009. We got 3, which was like 2011. We got 4, which was 2016. Then there was Golden Abyss, which we can sort of count, and then there was Lost. Okay, so it's 5, but
right,
five games, which is still to the point that we got one that was called A Thief's End, which was about Nathan Drake, hanging up his necklace or holsters or whatever his iconic article of clothing is, and then passing the torch. And then Lost Legacy was like proving that maybe Nathan Drake isn't the defining thing of Uncharted, and that more people could, be the protagonist of that. Which again it's weird because it's not really adventurous anymore. Which of course brings us to our next part of the conversation: is Indiana Jones 5 is still happening.
Right. We just recently got more details about that was basically going back into like rewrite territory. Indiana Jones 5, obviously, the sort of like one of the most like iconic long-running adventure series, if you want to call it that, because it's a strange franchise in that it was consolidated within a few years of the first 3, took a very significant break, came back for one film which wasn't really well received, and now went into kind of development hell for a little while as well. It's sort of like they speed run Star Wars in a way, in the way they've consolidated the amount of movies. But I just recently rewatched the first 4 Indiana Jones movies, and that's
you watched the Indiana Jones movies and then you watch Crystal Skull.
Yes, yeah, and that's a tough sell because my wife is a huge fan of the original 3, and she'd never seen Crystal Skull, and I was like, let's just do it, just get here and let's see how we feel about it, right? It's also like Crystal Skull is 12 years old now, and I'm like fully capable of revisiting things that I initially hated to try to find parts of them that I like. I very openly didn't like the Star Wars prequel trilogy. I went back and watched them, a long time ago, and I found stuff that I liked, and then I rewatched them last year, and I found even more stuff that I liked.
I mean, they're interesting on a really technical level, and also it's Star Wars, so it's like the sky's the limit in terms of getting weird. The Crystal Skull is a problem because it's not like weird, interesting, bad, or divisive, or whatever you want to call it. It's like safe. It's like it's just safe. Like it's just kind of yeah.
No, that's really well put. It is it's very odd. So Crystal Skull is basically, and this is a much derided film. This is, I would say one of the sort of like least enjoyed sort of like major franchise sequels probably ever. Crystal Skull, like, pulling a Crystal Skull, or like that became like basically like shorthand for, they took this beloved thing, they threw it into the ground. The issues with Crystal Skull is that it is 50% incredibly safe, 40% Spielberg's weird alien fetish that had to get shoehorned into that, which isn't even remotely interesting because they're just vanilla Baskin-Robbins basic Roswell aliens, and then 10% setting up this entire new thing where Shia LaBeouf is going to be the next Indiana Jones.
Yeah, they wanted to like do the retread of Last Crusade, where Harrison Ford would come in as the Henry Jones type and be like, he's going to be the old one.
And weirdly enough, rewatching that movie in 2020, where very clearly those Shia LaBeouf Indiana Jones movies never got made, Crystal Skull, spoilers, ends with Indy losing his whip and Shia LaBeouf's character picking it up, or I think it's his hat, I don't know, but I was pretty tired by the end of this. And he goes to put the hat on, and Indiana Jones takes it back, and then it ends. So, like, in the movie that's supposed to set up this character, they don't even set up that character. They just go, we're gonna sunset you from here on out. And I, bet dollars to Donut City won't be the next one.
Yeah.
But long story short, you can't have Uncharted without Indiana Jones and Tomb Raider and stuff like that, which, again, Indiana Jones. And now we are in a scenario where they're making a young Nathan Drake movie, right? Which was popularized first by Uncharted 3 and 4. First times we had a playable sort of configuration of what Nathan Drake looked like when, he was a little kid escaping the orphanage and stuff like that. And so when we first heard about, Sully in this movie being played by like Marky Mark, basically. Yeah. We were like, well, he's way too young for that. But then they're like, Tom Holland. It was like, oh, everyone's young here. So they're building this from the ground up.
But also, by the time they finally make the friggin' thing, they're going to be old enough for it. Like,
yes.
It's like they've aged it like wine. Flip side of this, for both of these movies, for both Indiana Jones 5 and the Uncharted movie that we've been hearing about for 12 years, it's missing the point. These are supposed to be about adventuring into the unknown. One of them is called Uncharted, but it's heavily charted because they've made 5 or 6 games about it. And then Indiana Jones is about, like, you know, going and doing things that no one's seen before, but we've seen it 4 times plus the TV show. Like, it's sort of it's so for these franchises to be, I guess, revisited in this sort of in this format, to be like, oh, well, we're going to take this thing that was crazy ambitious to do it in a video game form, you know, stuff that was always cool in movies and crazy to pull off, and we're going to make it a video game, but then we're going to make it a movie again. It's like, oh, well, all right, it's
definitely like filtering the water multiple times. But that said, isolating these things from whence they came, these are going to be 2 big star-studded movies, kind of going, probably releasing within a year of each other, whatever that looks like. Now, currently, like I said, 2008 was the last time we got an Indiana Jones movie. Harrison Ford is 78 years old right now. Indiana Jones 5 is slated for 2022, meaning he'll be 80. And so you'll have a pocket of people being like, he's way too old to be Indiana Jones. And then you'll have another pocket of people being like, he's way too young to be Nathan Drake. And so we're in an interesting scenario where no one's really meeting in the middle. You have one franchise that's starting fresh, just as one of them is sunsetting. And so thinking about this, I feel like the weight and expectations I have going into Indy 5, especially after 4, and especially after watching the original 3, which are wonderful, excellent, amazing films, super fun. I'm worried about them running this thing into the ground. I don't think there's an opportunity for them to Force Awakens this. This is not really a scenario where you pass the, you know, proverbial baton, aka lightsaber, to a new generation.
The only thing that really has me excited about this is that it's James Mangold who did Logan. Yeah. So he understands how to sunset a character properly. Yes. Like, he understands how to do that swan song. And like, Logan wasn't there to set up the adventures of like X-23. Like, it was kind of like, no, this is Hugh Jackman's big, like, last hurrah. So if he can do that with Indiana Jones, with Harrison Ford, cool, great, awesome. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see what these movies are like when they come out. But there's a whole lot of movies that were supposed to come out this year that still haven't. So it's going to be a minute.
Yeah, we'll see. So let us know in the comments which one you're more excited for, the Uncharted movie or Indy 5. I'm going with Uncharted. Weirdly,
which is less adventurous to you? Which seems like the safer adventure film, which is an oxymoron at best.
I feel like Indy 5 is going to get more money thrown at it, and I think it's going to be more interesting. But I think that Uncharted might hurt me less if it's bad.
Fair point. All right, so shifting gears, one thing that's incredibly dangerous to do this year is go trick-or-treating, which is something you're not supposed to do according to the CDC, which is a problem for candy companies, for obvious reasons. They're still selling candy. People are probably still buying plenty of candy. I would say there's probably a whole lot of adults who are stress buying candy so they can eat it at home. But there are some very strange approaches being taken by candy companies. Reese's, or Hershey, I rather, put out this promotional robot for Reese's, which is a remote-controlled door that drives around.
It's one of the scariest videos I've ever seen in my entire life.
It's so scary. So it drives around, and it is the alternative to children going door to door. Instead, the door comes to them, and in a contactless fashion, it delivers king-size Reese's cups.
Oh, that's the ones with 3 of them?
Yeah.
Oh man, then I'll do whatever the door says.
Yeah, I mean, if you can afford a remote-controlled door drone, you can afford king-size Reese's cups.
Yeah, that's like if the richest family on your block just drove up and down the block.
I'm sure there's some dude who's like trying to do the cheapskate version. He's got like a $100 drone off of Amazon that just has a Ziploc bag full of like fun-size cups, and he's trying to like drop those around. But this is a thing. This is mostly a stunt. This is a goof because they're not going to actually send these drones out in the wild, but it's still cute. And then flip side of this, which is equally weird and funny, in order to sort of encourage social distancing, Skittles has decided to have a contest. This requires a little bit of context. They put out a line called Zombie Skittles, which basically it's the sort of same logic as Bean Boozled or like Bertie Bott's Every Flavor Bean from Harry Potter, where it's regular Skittles except for some of them, which apparently taste like rotten zombie, which in other words means a dead body.
Wait, so you have like a small, that's the fun size?
I bought a whole bag of these.
Oh, so you're planning on giving these out on Halloween?
No, I bought them to talk about them on this dumb show that we do every week.
Okay, so if you don't finish, are you going to give them to kids?
I don't know. I I haven't thought this far about them. So I'm going to try these out. I'm going to eat some of these.
Before you dig in, tell me what's the worst that could happen here? Like what set up the stakes? Like,
so we did a video with those Bean Boozled things, and I thought like, oh, they'll just be like a silly, it'll be like, what candy thinks something bad tastes like, which wouldn't be a big deal.
Right.
Those are horrible.
Yeah, we were like physically recoiling in pain from some of those. So
there was a viral video. That's just an orange Skittle that went around with I'm guessing with moms, like with people, with normal people who aren't like sharing, like weird gameplay glitches and action figure screenshots and like I don't know, but basically his mom was like, my kids keep complaining the Skittles taste bad, and she didn't realize she'd gotten these for them, and she'd be like, honey, they're fine, they're regular Skittles, but like they're randomly. That's great. So I do the thing because I'm a monster where I'll just eat like a handful of them.
But now are you eating them individually right now?
Well, that was weird because that was a grape one that definitely didn't taste like grape, but it didn't taste like a rotting zombie either. So,
what is a rotting zombie supposed to taste like?
I don't know. This is weird. I don't know. Like Anyway, so
you know what? You might have you might just maybe you like bad food that this is not registering for you. Like you might.
So no, this is messed up. Some of these are tropical Skittles, but they're regular colored. Some of these are like the alternate, like the B and C team. They got the wild berry, they got the tropical.
Right. Okay, so that's all right. But you didn't get any gross ones in that small bag. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh no, that's not good at all.
What is it?
It's oh god.
What is it?
It's not horrible. It's just like really pungent. Like it's like a really strong Skittle. Like it just tastes. It's just like it's too much. It tastes like a candle. Like it's too.
Wait, it's like it's not bad, but it's just like a heightened version of a Skittle that tastes like you're eating.
Like you ever put too much seasoning in something?
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh no, I don't want that. It's definitely kind of like that, but with Skittles, which is a weird problem.
Would you eat Yankee Candle flavored Skittles? Like Christmas wreath?
Oh god, I got another one. What the hell is that? It's like a little bit soapy, but also not. It's mostly just too much. It's too much of a flavor because it makes you want to just like. Anyway, that's weird. So anyway, to promote this or to capitalize off of it, they decided to do a costume of zombie Skittles, and basically it was people, you've seen those dumb costumes where it's just like you look like a bag of Skittles, but because these Skittles are sometimes weird and stinky, they decided to put a thing called zombie mode in there, where there's basically a little button on your wristband. And the whole idea here, the joke is that, first of all, the costume is 6 feet wide, so you're halfway there to proper social distancing. But then, if people come near you, you hit a little button, and it sends out stinky clouds, and it makes people want to keep even further away from you. And this is like a giveaway they did. It was not like an actual like officially licensed costume. But I just think I feel like we've all been going a little bit crazy being cooped up or trying to cope with, pandemic stuff. But candy companies at Halloween, when they can't do trick or treating, they're like, what do you do? Robot door? Sure, fine, why not? Costume that farts? Go for it. Like, let's put poison in the Skittles. Who cares? Like they're
That's
just
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole thing. I also just really wanted to Photoshop a bunch of people doing this on the.
Are you going to dress up for Halloween?
We should probably do like a Halloween episode next week.
I could do. Oh, is that next week?
I mean, yeah, it's what it's.
Yeah, you're right. The year is just going.
22 really plus 7 plus.
Let's play calendar.
Yeah.
Do you have a costume picked out?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I could cobble something together. We should probably talk about this off the air when we're not doing this.
I was wondering people's Halloween plans right now because it's like, I mean, you could dress up like the Skittles fart bag, or you could
be the Skittles fart bag. Anyway, so while we're on the subject of candy, the opposite of candy is vegetables, and I stumbled across a very strange video today, which is a clip from the old 70s kind of Sesame Street-esque show called The Electric Company, in which Morgan Freeman played a singing vegetarian vampire. And I mean, like I remember Morgan Freeman being in like literally everything through the 90s. You know, that was in that wonderful golden age of like, you know, the Shawshank Redemption being on TV every 17 minutes.
Wow.
But this is like 70s Morgan Freeman playing Vincent the vegetable vampire. And it's like the weirdest, and he's going at it and he's like singing about how he likes to eat tomatoes and potatoes. And
this dude has never half-assed anything.
No, he's like,
he goes all in no matter what.
But it's also the most animated. Like, I feel like he's always been that very, like, he's like, you know, Ernest Hemingway once said, "The world is a wonderful place and worth fighting for. I believe in the second part." And you're like, wow, that was harrowing. But in this case, he's like, potatoes and broccoli, I'm a vampire, which is just a weird thing. So go look that up if you're feeling sad or you want to encourage yourself to enjoy that. Look, he's so young.
I wouldn't even have recognized him. He's so young. Is he gonna just gnaw into that corn?
Just chomp on that cucumber. Yeah.
Oh, is that a cucumber? It's a yellow. Oh, it's cucumber. There's a yellow in the middle. This is a weird. This looks like one of those like '90s candy shops. You know, with like the big baskets that you get a little basket.
They probably get pretty mad at you if you go to the grocery store and do this. Like if you dress up like a vampire and sing and touch all the food, they don't.
That's super illegal.
Yeah, but I wanted to use this as a segue to talk about vampires some more. Brian, you grew up in the weird early days of Japanese anime back when it was called Japanimation. Do you remember Vampire Hunter D?
I do.
I very
much do.
Do you remember that being like one of the coolest looking, most impressive animated things you've ever seen in your entire life?
I do. I very much do.
Okay, I bought it on Blu-ray and I rewatched it, and it looks really weird. Like it's totally not. Like I think maybe watching it at 3 a.m. on the Sci-Fi Channel on a CRT TV when I was supposed to be in bed added a lot of the thrill to it. But like I got it remastered, and there's a lot of kind of bait and switch going on here where Yoshitaka Amano, who did all of those wonderful like Final Fantasy, you know, concept art. You can see it a little bit here. Did the cover art, and you're like, wow, that looks incredible. It's so beautiful.
Right.
And then
it looks like a Castlevania game.
Exactly, yeah. And the actual animation is like it's good, but it's like it hasn't aged amazingly. And I rewatched a bit of it, and it's definitely one of those things where like when you're a kid, you're like you crystallize. It's just been a cool minute since I've had one of those where I've revisited something that I straight up have not been exposed to for 20 years.
Yeah.
And this is like it's also the color palette is horrible. Like it's very goofy. Like it's very like overly colorful, and it's like a vampire film. So you'd think that do we have some footage of it maybe? But anyway, it's I wanted to talk about that. Also, like there's a sequel they made in like the early 2000s called Bloodlust, which I think is probably it might look like I remember this looking, but it's just really weird to go back and revisit that. Because I mean, flip side, like Akira still looks amazing, Ninja Scroll still looks amazing, Ghost in the Shell still looks amazing.
How's the score hold up? Because Secret Stairs Records on YouTube says, I had that anime on VHS. I love it. The score is rad.
Didn't really stick out to me. I think it's probably fun, but yeah, it's an odd one. It's an odd time. But yeah, I mean, it's good to watch some fun I still have the taste of that fart Skittle in my mouth. It's not.
Pokeobot says, Brian, do your goofy anime face. Do I have one? Is it this? Is like.
I think that's it. Oh God.
What are you eating now?
The Skittle. I can see why I think they want it. Oh, that one's very bad. I think they have different bad flavors too.
Well, yeah, they wouldn't have one.
Oh,
bad
that one
flavor.
tastes like turkey.
What? What are you talking?
It's getting worse. That one tastes like. It tastes like bouillon. Oh, no, it's not good at all. There's the anime face.
Turkey? You're eating a turkey Skittle? That's
Like
one of the worst things I've ever heard.
No, exactly. It's not good. It tastes like if you put. Oh, that sucks. That's horrible. I don't like that one bit. I got a whole bag of these to eat. What am I doing? Pranks?
No, you got to give them out to kids, which is the ultimate prank. If the kids are there, if
I got to build some sort of drone that dispenses candies.
Did you see the families that are making zip lines that go from their front steps to the sidewalk, and they put a ghost on it, and it's got a little candy basket, and so with gloves on, they take candy, they put it in the basket, and they send this ghost zip line down. It's just like, woo! And there's a kid on the sidewalk, and he reaches in, and he gets the thing. There's no door or anything that drives down the street, but
it's kind of cute, but also scary. I don't know.
Yeah. Hi, you just described Halloween.
Oh yeah,
that's the official tagline. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's the show tonight. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to Mega Construx for powering this episode and sending over some awesome toys that we had a blast building. We shot all that footage at home. That was super fun to do. So yeah, we love toys here, and we love video games. So seeing them come together to help power the show makes us super, super happy. So thank you to Halo Mega Construx for presenting this episode. Thank you to Max for doing this episode with me. Yeah. And thank you to Alexia for powering it behind the scenes.
Our wonderful producer, Alexia, who does this. And also a message to Skittles. You're on thin ice. I was very fond of you, and then you started putting weird lobster bisque soap tasting Skittles in there. I don't like it.
You know what you bought? You did it yourself. This is your choice. You chose this. You chose this path, and this is where you.
That one's also bad. They're not good Skittles. There's only put poison in Skittles. This year,
just get the regular Skittles. I got a whole bag of the regular Skittles.
I have to go back to CVS. I don't want to do that. They're going to make fun of me for buying too many Skittles in one day.
They won't ever do that. No one will ever judge you. No.
It's like a stinky buttery flavor. It's horrible. Let's end this show already. It's a nightmare.
2020 is a stinky buttery flavor, and because of that, we're going to say goodnight. And we'll be back very soon because we love you and we love doing this show. Have a great time, and thank you for watching. Turkey Skittles.